Before beginning, take a moment to settle in. If you enjoy calm, immersive stories like this, consider liking and subscribing so you can return to more content like this whenever you need relaxation or sleep. Now, allow yourself to get comfortable. There is nothing you need to do right now. Just listen. It was the year 1917 in central Portugal, in a quiet rural region where life moved slowly and the world still felt distant and simple. In a small village called Aljustrel, stone houses rested across dry hills connected by winding dirt paths. The mornings were quiet, the air carrying the smell of wood smoke, earth, and wild plants drifting through the valley. 3 children lived here. Lucia dos Santos, 10 years old. Francisco Marto, 9 years old. Jacinta Marto, 7 years old. They were shepherd children. Each day, before sunrise, they led their sheep into the open fields of the Cova da Iria. The land stretched wide and quiet, surrounded by rolling hills. The only sounds were the wind, the movement of animals, and the soft ringing of bells tied to the sheep. Their meals were simple: bread, cheese and water carried in small bundles. Their days were long and still beneath the open sky. But what made them different was not their life. It was their prayer. Every day they prayed the rosary. At first it was quick and distracted, spoken like repetition. But over time something changed. The prayers slowed. The silence between words grew longer. The meaning began to deepen. They began to offer small sacrifices quietly, choosing discomfort without complaint, giving up water on hot days, sharing food without speaking of it. No one taught them to do this. It came naturally, as if something within them was shifting. In 1916, the children spoke of something that had already happened to them. While tending sheep, they described an encounter with an angel. They called him the Angel of Peace. They said he appeared several times that year, teaching them how to pray with focus and how to offer their hardships for others. Then he disappeared. They never spoke of it lightly again. Everything changed on May 13th, 1917. The day began like any other. The sky was clear and the valley was still. The children had finished praying and were watching their sheep when a sudden flash of light appeared across the sky. They paused. Thinking it was lightning, they gathered the flock. But then the light appeared again, stronger, closer. It did not fade. Near a small holm oak tree, the light formed into something solid. And then she appeared. A woman stood there, glowing softly, as if light itself had taken shape. There was no sound around her presence, yet everything felt still and focused. She spoke gently. "Do not be afraid." The children did not run. They stayed. She asked them to return to that same place on the 13th of each month for 6 months. She asked them to pray the rosary every day for peace in the world. Then she disappeared. The valley returned to silence, but nothing felt the same afterward. On June 13th, they returned. Word had already begun to spread. A few villagers followed them into the field, standing at a distance as the children knelt. They prayed, and again they described seeing her. This time she spoke more directly to Lucia. She told her that Francisco and Jacinta would go to heaven soon, while she would remain longer to carry the message forward. Those watching saw nothing unusual, but the children left that day changed, quieter, more focused. By July 13th, the field was no longer empty. Thousands came, farmers, skeptics, believers, reporters. all gathered in the same open space. The children knelt once more, and once again they said she appeared. But this time, the experience was different. They described being shown a vision of suffering, war, pain, and human tragedy on a scale they could not fully explain. It was not described in detail meant for shock, but as something heavy and serious, something that stayed with them deeply. Then they were given a message they would later call a secret. From that moment, everything became more serious. August did not bring a gathering. Before the 13th arrived, the children were taken by local authorities. They were interrogated and pressured to deny everything they had said. At one point, they were threatened with death, told they would be broiled in oil if they did not confess it was all false. They were separated, frightened, and alone. But they did not change their story. They prayed instead. Together, eventually, they were released. They missed the August apparition. Later, they said something still occurred quietly on August 19th, away from crowds. By September 13th, the valley was full again. Thousands gathered in anticipation. The children arrived and knelt. They prayed. And once again, they said she appeared. She told them to continue praying and promised that in October she would reveal who she was. As she left, witnesses described a white cloud rising from the tree. The anticipation after that moment became overwhelming. October 13th arrived under heavy rain. For days, the weather had not stopped. The ground was soaked, turning the field into deep mud. Still, between 50 and 70,000 people arrived. Some came in belief, some in doubt, some simply to witness what had become impossible to ignore. The children arrived calmly. Lucia asked the crowd to close their umbrellas and pray. Then she pointed upward. The rain stopped, the clouds opened, and the sun appeared. At first, it looked normal. Then it began to move, spinning in the sky, changing colors, casting waves of blue, red, and gold across the land. The crowd reacted immediately. People cried out, fell to their knees, prayed aloud. Some believed the world was ending. The sun appeared to move closer to the earth, then retreat again. And then, suddenly, it stopped, returned to its place. Silence followed. Then something else became clear. The ground, which had been soaked moments before, was completely dry. Clothing that had been wet was dry as well, as if the storm had never happened. After that day, the site slowly transformed. A small chapel was built where the children had stood. Pilgrims began to arrive. At first, in small numbers, then in growing waves. Eventually, the sanctuary of Fatima was established. Basilica of Our Lady of the Rosary of Fatima was built to accommodate the growing crowds. Later, a modern structure, Basilica of the Holy Trinity, was added, and beneath these spaces, the children were laid to rest. Francisco Marto and Jacinta Marto were later canonized as saints. Pope Francis officially recognized their sainthood in 2017. Lucia dos Santos lived much longer, becoming a nun and spending her life in prayer and silence until her death in 2005. Today, millions visit Fatima each year. Some come for faith, some for curiosity, some for peace. But at night, when the crowds are gone and the wind moves across the open space, everything becomes still again. And in that stillness, it is possible to imagine what once took place here. A field, a tree, 3 children kneeling quietly in the grass, praying, as if something beyond them was listening. Take a slow breath in and let it go. Rest.